Good morning, Crittermanders, and thanks for listening once again to Cosmic Crit. Alright everyone, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What is up with the goblins? Now, what is up with Andis? Andis, who despite getting some troubling news from a doctor recently, has been all aces and kings. They really showed up in that last fight with Zavra, only to then become a victim of their own creation? A couple of people have reached out to ask about or to guess at what I was working on. It isn't a big secret or anything. In all honesty, I thought I'd mentioned wanting to access some more past life memories via a Mark II mnemonic editor, but I guess in retrospect that didn't end up making it into the final cut, and so you ended up not knowing about it. So, Blazoric over on Discord suspected it might have been something similar to that. He wondered if I was trying to recreate the dreaming pool, which, honestly, that would have been a really interesting idea. When he mentioned it to me, I was sort of kicking myself that I didn't come up with it. But this is all sort of a long-winded way of saying, if you like the show and you aren't already in our Discord channel, why don't you swing on by? You can chat with the cast and all of our other fun, interesting, awesome listeners. We've even got some Starfinder Society play going on over there, so if you want to play but are having trouble fitting an IRL game into your schedule, come on over to Discord and say hi. Now, speaking of Discord, last week I got to watch people get to the end of the episode sort of in real time, because they then immediately came over to chat and said, "No, Andis!" So, I know many of you are worried about Andis, and I'll be honest, I am too. I've never lost a character in all my experience with Starfinder, or Pathfinder, or D&D, and I've also never felt such a connection to one of those characters as I have for Andis. So, when they dropped at the end of last week's episode, I was shocked. I didn't know what was happening, and when we went in to record this episode, Patrick told me, make sure you have a new character ready. So gang, I'm with you on this one. Let's do this. Episode 47.
The Andis Family. Last time on Cosmic Crit.
We faced off against Huntmaster Zavra and his cohorts in the Temple Found.
Zavra brought his +1 to the boss fight.
The big bad evil guy gets upstaged by a far more Kishax Hibiki.
When you get critted in the first round of combat, you're gonna have a bad time.
Alindra's down? Good thing we still have a Nope, he's down too.
With Alindra and Adra struggling, Raimi ensured a shocking conclusion for Zavra. Raimi may have gone a little overboard with all the electricity. Unrelated, barbecued Yosoki anyone?
Just when we thought the combat was finally over, a black-eyed, possessed Sharon emerged.
Something's wrong with our favorite android.
See, Marvel? We could do a post-credit stinger too.
Episode commencing in 3, 2, 1. Episode initiated.
Strange things are afoot aboard the Drift Rider. Greetings, Crittermanders and Starfinders, and welcome to Cosmic and Crit's Excellent Adventure. We're stepping into a space phone booth and getting teleported back in time to meet heinous barbarians and wise philosophers. Won't you join us in welcoming, hopefully, the graduating seniors from San Dimas High School, your players, and my friends? To my left, party on and be excellent to one another. It's Drew playing Knack Theodore Feldspar.
Whoa.
To his left, this wise dude has the knowledge of the ages. It's Jabert playing Andis Crates.
Oh man, I was so hoping that you would pick George Carlin for me. Thank you.
No! Get out of here. Across the digital table, if you kill his friend, you're gonna get killed in kind, Pronkweed. It's Miles playing Raimi S. Preston Esquire.
You may be a king or a little street sweeper, but sooner or later you'll dance with the Reaper.
To his left, an expert swordswoman who just conquered the San Dimas Mall sporting store. It's Rebecca playing Alindra Khan.
Hello.
And finally to my right, more demanding than a dictator on a water slide, it's Tyler playing Edros Bonaparte.
Bonjour!
So how are you guys doing? How you feeling tonight?
Pretty good.
Whew, after last week, breathing
Yeah.
is handy.
A little nervous.
Elindra's
yeah.
not feeling great, but
Well, we did leave off last week after you all beat Zavra, took over the Temple Found, and discovered the location of an ancient Kishali device known as the Gate of the 12 Suns. You guys set sail, leaving Istamak for the last time. As you settled into your bunks, Jabert, correct me if I'm wrong, but you wanted to make a mnemonic editor for Andis 147, correct?
Right. Yeah, I was, I wanted to go back and change a couple things in the character, and so I'd sort of, I'd converted a whole bunch of UPBs to, or a bunch of credits to UPBs, and I have just enough UPBs to do it. So that was sort of the thought.
Excellent. You've fallen right into my story trap,
Right.
Bert.
I mean, like sort of the way that I intended on explaining it in character is that I'm trying to access more of those memories to sort of learn more about Andis 146.
That's coming. I imagine not only did you utilize the UPBs that you've got access to, but also maybe scavenge some parts from the House of Renewal, the ancient Kishali gene editing device, and maybe crafting pieces and integrating it into the Drift Rider's recreation suite, where
that seems about right. I'd probably reinstall some of the medical bay equipment in there too, so I can like have something to lay down on while I'm.
And that's where we left last week. You find Andis 147 maybe pausing just a moment before hitting the button, diving into the recesses of their own mind. But when you do, there is indeed a massive shock of neural energies as your exocortex begins to burn, taking all the energy from your body, seemingly overclocking itself, and Andis 147 falls to the ground, convulsing, the eyes going from a metallic black sheen to milky gray. And Andis, when you open your eyes again, you are blinded as the rays of the sun dazzle you, and you feel a cool breeze on your skin. Looking around, you're standing in the foothills surrounding a large mountain. Dozens of patches of forest dot the landscape around you as a single white peak looks down from up above. Taking stock of what you see, it almost looks like you've loaded into the Goblin's ancient Galarion simulation, but on closer inspection, you see the horizon is only about a mile away, and it seems like the world just drops off into space beyond that, and a massive transparent dome rises from where the world ends and the stars begin. Away from the mountain here, you see what looks like a massive spaceship beyond parts of this dome, stretching out impossibly long into the stars beyond that. It seems like you're on some kind of huge vessel. The make, not like any make that you've seen, something you're familiar with. What do you want to do?
So this is I'm in sort of like a biosphere on a vessel right now. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Huh.
And it looks like New Zealand. The parts where they filmed The Hobbit.
Oh boy, I love this place. Do I remember this? Is this something familiar, or?
It kind of feels familiar, but it's definitely nothing, if you're scanning your own memory, that you've seen before.
Am I sort of aware? Is this sort of like a lucid dream, or am I just sort of like in it right now? Like I'm just. What do you think about that?
It seems, somewhere between a dream and what you've experienced in kind of VR space before. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can feel weight, you can feel hot and cold, you can feel just about everything, but you know that the virtual realities that people can make can replicate just about everything like that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go for a walk.
Right. So down the mountain, up the mountain?
Let's go up the mountain.
It's not long, because you're still kind of in the foothills around it. As you're hiking, that on the path you're walking along, see a traveler rising up to meet you, seemingly standing in your way. They wear a traveler's robes and they walk on a long wooden staff. They wave at you as you close the distance, and when they meet you, this figure slowly pulls back their robe, revealing their face, and it is a very familiar face, for it is your own face. You're staring into your own reflection here, but a slightly different android emotion playing across their visage, as they are generally bemused by seeing perhaps shock on Andis 147, and they say, Andis 147, I presume.
Well, naturally. Who are you?
I think you understand what is happening here. My name, too, is Andis. I am Andis 146, and I believe that we have a lot to talk about.
I suppose we do.
Back on the Drift Rider, though, I'm going to cut back and forth between what's happening in space and out of space.
I was really hoping for a Wizard of Oz, and you were there, and you were there.
Meanwhile... Wait, use that later. Don't
go back and rewrite it. Go back and rewrite it.
Oh, I'm gonna find me some red shoes.
You come across a squirrel who's like, get them nuts. No, meanwhile, on the Drift Rider Alindra, that night, you are awakened by the goblins beating down your door to the captain's quarters. It's Bumfuzzle and Cattywampus, and the sound of their shrieks, ear-piercing shrieks, wake you up.
What's the matter?
Captain, it's Andis. Our felon is not responding.
Where are they? Take me to them.
They're in the hack. I didn't know what they did.
The hack. Alindra runs to the hack.
Everyone else can wake up at the same time because this is a bit of a ruckus that these goblins are making. And as you do, if you make your way into the hack, the two goblins show you the lifeless body of Andis 147. They shake it violently, slap it across the face, maybe jump on its stomach a few times.
We found them like this. It seems they made a device by themselves. Something seems to have gone wrong.
Raimi, can you investigate this device? What is it?
So can I do a computers check?
Computers, life science, either one of those.
All right. I'm going to do a computer. It's 31.
Yeah. Well, you know from just looking at this, it is a slapdash mnemonic editor. It seems like Andis was digging around in their own mind.
It looks like they tried to put together a mnemonic editor for themselves.
Mnemonic editor?
I don't know why.
Who cares why? What do? We can't just leave him lifeless on the floor.
Can you tell what's wrong with them?
Does anybody have a life science they want to roll?
I do. 21.
Ooh. Yeah, so it seems like they are in a vegetative state. But they're, if you're looking at some of the computers that are hooked into Andis, they have a lot of brain activity showing, detecting maybe hundreds of times the amount of electroactivity passing between the exocortex and Andis's own mind. But the body just seems completely inert.
Well, his body seems to not be functioning. His mind seems wide awake.
I mean, that's fortunate, isn't it?
Yeah, but I just don't know what's going on. Is there a way that I can kind of, maybe not hack into it, but kind of tinker it so I can get a sense of what maybe Andis was trying to do?
Yeah, not a ton that you can do with the mnemonic editors. They can take some time to run their course, but the new ones that you've run, the devices that you've heard being used to do this kind of hybrid technological magic before, none of them shut the body down. This is definitely not normal.
Can I use detect thoughts?
Yeah, so if you try and psychically connect with Andis, you're almost blown back by the energy coming out of their brain. It does seem like if normally you would detect the surface thoughts of someone, what they're thinking, you are detecting hundreds of surface thoughts, if not more. And it's almost too much to sort through. You're kind of put back on your heels from trying to interface.
What about hooking them up to some kind of monitor or hooking the mnemonic editor to some kind of monitor to see if we can see what kind of information is being transferred back and forth?
Yeah, the hack might have that kind of capability, but as soon as you plug in anything besides what has already been attached to Andis, it either shorts out or runs for about 3 seconds, and then, just the energy coming out of their brain. It doesn't seem like anything on the ship is able to catch up with it.
Well, it really seems like there's a lot we can do here.
Perhaps we can at least make them more comfortable. Move them to a bed or something.
They are indeed still plugged in to this device, so it's up to you if you want to try and disconnect them or not.
We can't take the device with them.
No, it's kind of hooked into the HAC.
Okay.
I mean, I believe in Andis, and I think whatever they are trying to do, we should believe in them.
So, as you all are deliberating what to do with Andis, Galara comes up overhead, talks to you throughout the ship, and says,
Captain, drift beacon detected, flight time 2 hours. It seems to be some kind of space station within the drift.
Perhaps we should stop. Do we need to pilot there? Do I need to tell Raimi to go to pilot?
Yeah, you guys can head back to the bridge of the ship, and if you take a look at the telemetry data the ship's computer is feeding you, why don't you give me a culture check? See if you recognize the ping that you're getting.
32. That's Knack.
32.
I'm 23. So.
Oh, thank goodness for Knack. Yeah, so this isn't just a space station. This is a city. Knack, you're looking at what seems to be the asteroid-built city of Alluvion, and it is said to move throughout the drift and is home to the Nexus, said to be the center of worship for the computer god Triune. This is where basically drift travel came from. They produce drift beacons here.
What are drift beacons?
They're large structures set in the drift that allow for drift travel to be a little more precise. So when you are traveling to locations, outside the pack worlds especially, it makes a good deal easier if there are these beacons out there to allow you to kind of navigate point to point, kind of in the ether.
So space lighthouses.
They are very similar to that, not gonna lie. They're also kind of, like you're making a road. The drift it doesn't follow the same rules of like X and Y coordinates of a Cartesian plane. So one of the reasons why you can travel longer distances by, spending less time is when you get in there, it's more about navigating the packets of where there's nothing. And the drift beacons allow you to find your way through the dense clouds of the drift a little easier.
Interesting. Well, Triune also rings like something we ought to listen to, given that we have an android who is in distress. Isn't Triune like the android god or something?
An aspect of Triune is called the Created, and that is like the god of putting life into inanimate objects, kind of like androids.
Right.
Other creatures.
I wonder if we might be able to find some support there at least. Raimi, set a course for Alluvion.
Yeah, and it's not a few hours before you all can drop out of drift space, and you see this asteroid ahead of the drift rider, abuzz with small rocky outcroppings that circle around it, as well as hundreds of ships. And as soon as you are within range, Galara comes up and says you are being hailed.
Oh dear. Open comms.
Drift Rider, Raimi, I am happy and sad to be able to reach you. It is I, Kendori.
Hey, it's been a long time.
Raimi, we have much to discuss. Please come and meet me at these coordinates along the Sourceway and bring Andis 147.
Wait, how do you know Andis?
All will be revealed. Come to this address.
Anyone else getting tired of cryptic stuff?
Oh, well,
A little.
let me pause you right there.
I'm saying that in character.
Okay, good, because if you guys are not for the cryptic, this is the episode to check out.
No.
I love it. I think it's great.
that is Raimi talking to the crew.
Meanwhile, while you guys are landing back inside Andis 147, before you, standing this other version of yourself, the predecessor of your body, Andis 146. What would you like to do, Jabert?
I assume that we're sort of continuing to walk together.
They turn you around and is like, Andis 146, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am sure you have an entire world of questions.
For starts, what is this place?
This is a space I created within the exocortex. Our brain holds countless memory fragments from those that came before us, Andis, and I wanted a way to manifest those voices. I guess I didn't really think about it at the time, but I was also sort of building my own mausoleum for when I passed on too. This is a recreation of a ship known as the Divinity. It contains the foundry where our form was created thousands of years ago, and this is where we were truly born, and as such I thought it would be a great place to rest eternally.
How has it been? Are you lonely?
Not really, you'll see, but death, or whatever this is, not as bad as you think it is. Pretty nice up here, actually.
That's a relief. Yeah, good.
You see, Andis, we're not like other androids. Unfortunately, we are considerably older than many, and while we have some, for lack of a better term, we have some defects, a lack of mental elasticity. I tried to fix that with the exocortex, but it seems that I failed. After a century, the souls in our form grow weak and eventually fall and move on. You have nearly reached that tipping point and seem to have activated the exocortex's failsafes to try and repair our mind. And that is what this place is. It is a sanctuary of sorts for the android soul. You are the 147th being to inhabit our body, and you shall not be the last.
So, is this it?
Not as simple as that. You see, we are fairly rare even among androids. We were one of the first lives ever created. The humans that made us in their image arose on a world named Androffa, and we were different from many other lines that were created on that world, for we were the first that bonded with the soul, thus becoming true beings. But while advanced, yes, our bodies suffered many ills that androids today need not worry about.
What do you mean when you say we lack mental elasticity?
It is something just built into our mind. While other androids might be able to withstand the rigors of inhabiting a body for many, many more years, ours lacks the ability to do so after a century. And the connection of our soul to the mind begins to slip. That is where we find ourselves having trouble, and that is around the time that I built the exocortex for myself to try and slow that down. But perhaps it will answer more of your questions if we visit the others back in town.
Others? Yes. Yes, I'd like to meet them.
Yes, that is where we will meet the other Andises. Meanwhile, back now above the city of Alluvion, this huge asteroid, maybe a few square miles, as you're flying to land the Drift Rider, Raimi, you see along its underdeveloped side what looks like avenues and streets that are lit up and follow uneven paths. And they remind you of the lines of circuitry on a computer chip, or perhaps those lines that run along Andis's body. As you touch down the Drift Rider, you find yourself in a spaceport on the edge of the asteroid upon which the city sits. And as you disembark, you see what looks like other smaller asteroids, pieces of space rocks and debris that are slowly swirling around this side of the island. And in fact, you see and feel one of them crashing slowly into the main bulk of the city, slightly shaking the ground beneath your feet, seemingly adding itself to the mass of Alluvion, almost like it has its own huge gravitational pull. The address that Kindori gave you is about halfway along the city. Bumfuzzle and Cattywampus rigged a hover lift for you to transport Andis's body with as much of the equipment as possible. And as you make your way through the streets here, you pass hundreds of insect-like anacytes, this race of large, medium, small robotic workers, as well as many androids. It seems like they make up the majority of the city's population, as well as some other, you see some Isoki, human, Verthani. The source, it seems, is a wide river that flows through the center of the city. It looks to be a magical waterway in nature as it glistens as you're walking past it. And you find this address Kindori provided, and it looks to be a small shop of some kind, just in one of these back alleys. The sign out front reads Kendori Computer, and entering inside, you see thousands of pieces of electrical equipment, devices that are seemingly built into the walls, and there's a large metallic and stone table in the center of the room, prepped for what looks like an operation. There's a cloth draped over it, and a small table with some a medical kit and diagnostic equipment that stands nearby. What do you guys want to do?
I'd like to ask Raimi who this person is that we're going to meet.
So, Kendori was my teacher. I haven't seen him for many years, but any time that a bounty hunter or a corporation or something got too close to finding me or my identity, he usually found a way to warn me.
So do you think we can trust him?
I mean, he's never given me a reason not to trust him, and I've trusted him with my life for the last 10 years.
Knowing you, that means something.
Yeah, I mean, he's had my identity the entire time, so I see no reason why we shouldn't trust him now. He seems to have some sort of knowledge of what's going on and knew what was going on with Andis before we did.
As you talk, a disembodied voice drones overhead, very electronic, and says,
I have a knowledge of many things. Raimi, welcome. Hello to you all. I apologize that this required meeting like this. You may call me Kendori.
I whisper to Alindra, he also has a flair for the dramatic.
Alindra will step up and introduce herself. I'm Alindra, I'm the captain of the crew, and I hear that you know Raimi, but also Andis?
I have never met Andis. Raimi, it is good to see you in person, not just through the infosphere.
It's good to see you too, but I mean, Alindra has a valid question. How do you know Andis?
I'm sure I can answer that question first, but let me first say, I know I have presented myself to you in various forms, but this is who I am. You are technically within me right now. This structure is part of my mind. I am Kendori, AI and traveler of the stars. Raimi, you can understand why I was never able to meet you in person before.
You're an artificial intelligence?
Yes.
Well, that makes sense, but do you not have a mobile body?
I have constructed things in the past that allowed me to wander the stars, but as of right now, this is my main core.
The room in which you guys are standing, if you take a closer look, it does seem like you're inside a computer. The shop outside is just very tongue-in-cheek, Kendori Computer. But yeah, I mean, the bits along the wall, it does seem like a very advanced, high-tech computer. Kendori continues on and says,
I'm glad your training has delivered you here, Raimi. I do apologize for the cryptic messages I passed along to you. Back on Castrovel, I was aware that there were people targeting you, but I did not know who. I assumed it had to do with either your familial connection or your current mission with the Starfinders.
A little bit of all the above. I don't know if you've been able to tap into what's been going on, but my family had been controlled by a necromancer named Ziravesh since before I was born, and had apparently been the reason for a lot of the goings on with Quindar Industries and all the horrible things that's happened to me.
Since you have been out of commission the last few weeks, I can report that there has been a reckoning on Verces to that end, and it will be some time before everything comes to light, but your fighting this Ziravesh has indeed seemed to loosen the stranglehold the corpse fleet had on Quindar Incorporated.
What sort of reckoning?
That is something for you to discover in the future. But now, sadly, we must turn to the matters of Andis 147. While their fate is beyond my control, I am not alone in interest in you and your friend's journey. I have summoned others here to bear witness to what is about to happen.
As they say to this, there's a knock at the door, and the metallic port slides open, and you see outside in the alleyway a number of figures dressed in robes, but at their head walks a very familiar figure in armor, sporting a sniper rifle on their back. Sorry to keep you waiting. Has the renewal started yet? It's Clara 247.
Clara!
Meanwhile, back inside Andis's mind, 147, you are led by 146 down the hills toward a small river and a clearing that opens up next to it. There you see a small hamlet of thatched roof homes and wooden structures. 146 says, "We call the town Aurora. It is where we were born and where we rest once our journey is through."
I see. How many were able to make it here?
A loaded question, but every fragment that has existed within our mind is represented here in some form or fashion. Come, let's meet some. As you walk inside the small town, you see many different forms of yourself. There's what looks like a pirate version of Andis with a cybernetic eye and a small furry creature on their shoulder. You see a wild-looking Andis whose musculature is overwrought as they are splitting wood with a massive, hafted, double-bladed axe. And all told, as you're walking through, you see maybe 100 Andises, some showing magical talents, others reading beneath a large tree in the town center, and still others painting a fence, some swimming in the river. Not quite paradise, but it is a place where we keep active. Mind you, this is all taking place within a few billion neurons within our mind, tucked away in the back, so processing power is limited. Still, we keep active. A few of the Andis were talented actors in their time and like to recreate famous plays throughout, at least throughout our recorded time.
Well, I should like to see one of those someday.
Well, you didn't come at the right time, so they're typically on every other day. You bad luck, I guess.
This is dress rehearsal.
Yes.
They're very shy.
Days here are many, many days, normal days long. But it is not all happy. We do have to take care of the ill, mind you, as well. There are some who were not so lucky. 146 leads you to a building, and inside you see dozens of forms of Andises lying prostrate in beds. As you look at them, though, they don't seem to make sense. It's like you're looking at a static field surrounding them, something blurry, out of focus, and trying to remember details about what you're seeing seems impossible.
What happened to them?
We believe these were the Andis alive during the gap. Whatever magics shaped that time erased much of their being and their minds, but they remain here like ghosts within this place until we can figure out how to help them, that is. There seem to be a few Dr. Andises in here kind of trying to administer treatment with these very rudimentary devices.
Mm-hmm. I approach one of them and I try to lay a comforting hand upon, what is surely their sweltering brow.
Nope, you touch their feet. They're really confusing.
Oh.
They're all over the place.
Oh, my life science checks. Why have you forsaken me?
And now you don't even remember doing that. Now the memory's just gone. It's really confusing trying to help these things.
Huh.
But yes, you said you had questions, maybe some more. Let us talk. 146 leads you to a small table besides the river, and a game of chess is set up, ready to play. He invites you to make the first move.
Well, I start by moving my knight towards the center of the board.
Foolish move.
Yes, I know. Classic mistake.
This is going to be a short game. No, do you have any questions here?
I suppose. I suppose I don't understand how I've come to be here. I suppose I was trying to access some of your memories, but
you've got them in pretty perfect form, if I must say.
I should say so. And I'm not coming on to you. That would be weird.
He makes some really good chess moves. He's like, I still got it.
And just makes some pretty poor chess moves. I don't know how this game works. I think I hide my queen under the table so he can't take it, but then I don't get to use it.
So yeah, here I am. Questions for me.
Who were you?
Well, in my time, I guess you could say I was a roboticist. I worked and taught for the Holtani Corporation at one of their off-world campuses. It was wartime back then against the Vescarium, and the governments of the Pact threw money at us to feed them weapons, tactics, really anything they could use in the fight against the lizard devils. It was still unbelievable that I managed to gain a speaking position at the school
androids, when I entered this body, didn't even have citizen rights within the pact. But I built myself up from nothing, literally, in some cases, mind you. The Andis 145 before me was kind of a jerk and managed to get their leg cut off.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, I worked on campus making drones, exocortexes, and other devices for stewards, starfinders, and whatever militaries had the money.
I see. I suppose I should cut to the chase with something.
Yeah.
I need to know about Calathu 7.
Calathu 7, yes. I was part of an exploration team there, along with, a few other scientists, Braskin, and we had the intern Pasilar.
Yes, Pasilar, yes.
I was getting along in years, if memory serves. It was right before my renewal. I forget what it was we were looking for there. I believe our financial backer from Quinn Industries was going on about some kind of ancient magical species having created the planetoid. What was it? I'm afraid I don't recall too much of note from that trip.
What can you tell me about your companions on that trip?
Well, I didn't know them too well. Pasilar, I believe, had a bright future ahead of them, but I really was only colleagues back at the Holtani campus with Jiro Braskin.
Yes, we've I've been able to piece together a few things from that time. I found a photo of you, and the only name that I was unable to place was Braskin.
Well, he was a colleague of mine, one of the best bioengineers in the universe at the time. He was studying Vesk biology, but, well, sadly we had a falling out.
What happened?
Well, shortly after Calathu 7, his home colony was invaded by the Vesk, and his wife was lost, like completely lost. They were not able to find a body, and he turned to unsavory corners of the universe to try and reach out and find her, try and get her back. Some called it a religious movement, but it was a cult. They went after the Vesk for a time, had his own ship named the Singularity, but that is when I lost contact with him.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. What were the events that led to your renewal?
Well, I think perhaps you might have been experiencing some of them. At some point after Calathu 7, I had blackouts. I was unable to continue teaching, continue my studies, and I spent some years resting, but realized that the dreams I was having were not dreams at all at that time. They were glimpses into previous lives. And that's when I set about applying the exocortex to myself and moving on. I went to a local android church. I went through the process, relinquished control of the body while I tucked a piece of my mind here in Aurora.
So you don't remember anything about a place called Depthus?
Sadly, no.
Well, it was a lovely place.
I have glimpsed pieces of your own memory. I understand that of which you speak.
Oh, so then you know it was not a lovely place.
Yes, no, I got the sarcasm.
Okay, good. I was really just trying to spare your feelings. I didn't want to make you feel bad or anything.
It was never our forte, making jokes, you understand.
I understand well.
Ah, yes. But let us get to the matter at hand.
Sure.
I'm sure you would like to know what you are doing here.
Yes, I must admit this is more than I expected. My intention was only to perhaps relive a few moments and glean a few more pieces of information. This is so much more than I could have possibly expected.
Well, sadly, there won't be too much time before you are confronted with a choice. That being staying here with us, relinquishing control from this form, your mind joining our consciousness, and your soul leaving, and departing for wherever souls go when they take that journey beyond the mortal veil. Sadly, I cannot give you back the missing years where you were injured and enslaved on that mining rock, but here you may rest and join us in trying to subconsciously help whomsoever it is that takes your place. But there is another way, a way to return to your body, as it seems you have business still left to handle. It is tricky business, but I believe that your friends, the Starfinders, they may have a way to save your life.
Meanwhile, back on Alluvion in Kindori Computer, back there with the crew, you all are joined by Clara 247 and a group of robe-clad humans and androids. They pull back the robes around their faces, and you see a few of them look nearly identical to Andis 147, maybe save for a few slight differences in their face, maybe some of them slightly different builds, like an inch taller, inch shorter. Clara introduces everyone and says, Founding 19, let me introduce you to the crew of the Drift Rider. Drift Rider, these are the members of the Founding 19. We are here for Andis 147. I suppose you can call them Andis's family. Is that accurate? One of the android figures behind them nods. I have been in their employ since back on Absalom and was tasked with ensuring Andis's safety. I used the cover of working for Astral Extractions to try and stop you all from getting to the Drift Rock. I must say it has been nearly impossible following you around the galaxy. For you Starfinders, get around. Anyway, I'm sure you have some questions.
It's good to see you again, and especially good to know that we have another friend of Andis here. Can you tell me exactly what's going to happen to them?
I think this one might be able to explain more. I'm kind of hired muscle, as it were. Behind them, an android steps forward, almost the spitting image of Andis 147. Maybe just an inch shorter, slightly softer angles to their face. And they say, Hello, I am Designate Andy, and this is Andio. We are but two members of the Founding 19. We are foundry mates of Andis 147 and have been created long ago aboard the same vessel. We are an order of worshippers of Triune, and our purpose is to unravel the secrets of the divine within our lineage. It is said when all 19 of our order are reunited that a shard of the All Code will be unraveled, and the form of Cassandali will return to our universe to help stem the tide of a great enemy. Andis is one of ours, and we have had an interest in them for some time. The other android that they bring forward says, We have found many members of our kind like Andis over the years. They disappeared for a period, but we discovered them back on Absalom Station. Some have been helpful, others not so much in our mission. We were unsure if Andis had any memory of working with us. They were quite helpful, but there are others who have shunned our order. They that go by the name Null 9, but Andis, many years ago, helped us reach out to others, find others.
Does it seem awfully suspicious that all this seems to be happening at the same time right now? To anybody else? I'd like to sense motive on this guy.
Go right ahead.
So it's a 31.
So it seems like what they're saying is indeed something that may have said many times before. You don't detect too much deception in their voice, but there's not a lot of accent on the android's speech. They surprisingly do pick up that you seem a little skeptical, and the android referred to as Andio steps forward to the body of Andis 147 and reveals on their skin the word Andis, which is written beneath a dermal layer, and scratched into it the numbers 147, kind of tattooed in the android fashion, covers up part of it. Is that on your chest, Gerbert?
I believe it's on my front right shoulder.
Got it. But they cover up part of the name there and say, nearly all of us took this as our name and got it wrong. Andis is not only their name, but our product line number. AND stands for Android, and this is 1515. They are the 15th of our line. I am Android 10. This is Android 1. Android 15 here was always a wanderer. So hard to find, so hard to track.
Yeah, well, old Android 15, 147, this android is my friend, and if you do anything to harm them, we will take this whole place down.
It seems you are confused as to why we are here. Clara steps forward and says, very long story, but sadly there is a magical prophecy involved with these guys, and they do a lot of hocus pocus that I quite literally do not want to understand. But as it was explained to me when I took the job, the long and short of it was that you all were fated to have Andis 147 come here. At this point in your journey, and in this condition, Kendori was going to be the site, and whether or not Andis returns to life is their choice. This table here, Kendori tells me, is a regeneration table and has the power to bring Andis back, but they need to be willing to come back.
Well, I think that's something that no one has explained to us, is we don't know exactly what's going on with our friend here. What's wrong with them?
They are stuck between this world and the next. Their soul, unglued from their body, is unsure whether they are leaving or staying. The android known as Andio, Android 10, steps up and says, "This is not just a prophecy. This is the edicts upon which we based all of our actions. Years ago, a very powerful mage contacted us. They were themselves, sadly, the only vessel for a divination regarding Andis 147, as well as you all. They said that they knew you would have to form this group, fight for the location of an ancient superweapon, and that while we could help you in this one instance and elsewhere from afar, anything we would do to help you in your mission would result in the death of billions."
How so?
Perhaps it is best that they speak for themselves. I requested they attend this ceremony. While their numbers have fallen, I am told their acolytes are still heeding this prophecy well. At that moment, the doors of Kendori open up, and the group of rope figures, the founding 19 members, begin to part as two small figures enter the room. It's Bumfuzzle and Cattywampus. They're like,
"What up, Pronkers?"
Oh, Pronk.
back inside Andis 147. Jabert.
Hey.
Andis 146 has taken you from the town of Aurora and started hiking back up the mountainside with you, explaining as you go that there's one way out of this place. At the peak of this mountain is where we commune with the greater consciousness in the host. I was meditating up there a few days ago when you and I thought the same thing. A vision of my time in the Institute, watching Dr. Braskin give a lecture. As you continue to climb, the weather turns cold. The light breeze turns into a heavy wind that threatens to knock you from the mountain. Can you make an athletics check for me, Jabert?
I can.
I'm sure there's no armor check penalty in the subconscious.
You'd be wrong. So it wanted to be that one. Yeah, so that's more than enough. It's like almost 30. You buffeted by the wind. You're almost ready to fall over. You're able to steady yourself. 146 looks back at you and says, It is quite all right. We often fall on the way up the mountain, but it does not seem that we can be hurt here or ever have fallen for good. Come, we are almost there. They lead you to a small cave entrance nearly at the top of the mountain. They light a torch at the entrance, and you all are able to walk within. Here is where I have to leave you. The decision must be yours, to stay within this form or to rejoin us in the valley below. Know that there is no right or wrong answer here. The morality of this decision is neutral for whomever we decide to be. It is that which is within our core, that which does not change with the tides turning or even stars blinking out of existence. It is that stuff that defines us, that shapes the world around you. They hand you the torch.
I accept it.
So, Jabert, you have a decision on your hands. As Andis descends further down the cave, it splits into two forking paths, and you know that one of them does indeed lead back to your body. The other is an exit of the cave back down the mountain, and you have a vision in that exit that there is someone or something that would replace Andis 147. And whoever it is, you do feel there's a warmth about them, very familiar, almost as if their soul was laying in wait, touching your own. Let's get back to the real world. Alluvion, as the founding 19 set up candles and burn incense. The goblins, Bumfuzzle, and Cattywampus are here now. It's a party. You can bring out the cake. Bumfuzzle says,
"So, remember our old master Collywobble? Well, he was making this robot one day and chalked himself something fierce, When he awoke, he had a vision and started describing events and people he had never seen before. A great cataclysm that would destroy the Pact Worlds. And 5 Starfinders who were the only ones that had the power to stop it.
Cattywampus, it's like playing with a candle and says,
Oh, that's you 5. Andis 147 included. Caligawapple was obsessed with forming you all together and training you up. So he had me hack into the Starfinder computers and have Durvor Creo call you all in for a job.
Is that why you attacked us with giant robots?
That is indeed why we did that.
Well, somehow, for the first time, I'm at a loss for words.
So, is this why we all have connections to that photograph? It wasn't a coincidence after all.
Bumbles and Cattywampus kind of look at one another. It's like,
Photograph?
Well, I was really saying that to Knack and Raimi.
oh.
I thought you were talking to them too.
Bumfuzzle continues and says,
Well, he had a number of visions and we wrote them down. Oh, one was you all exploring the Drift Rock, and another where you're fighting inside a giant lady on Casherville. That one didn't make a lot of sense until what you described. And still another was all of us here in this room waiting for the return of Andis.
Did any of these visions include you guys almost killing us in a VR simulation with your bad programming?
No, that was all us, but well, we can't tell you much more because Kaiwabble said that if we did, then you die, and we die, and everything we ever loved would die. He was very emphatic about that. So we're going to not tell you anything more. Save that you all win in the end. Kind of. It's complicated. And I forget, Cattywampus, does Knack live or die? It's one of those 2 options. I forget too. Anyway, big ol' prophecy. It's time to get into fulfilling destiny, yada yada. How's Andis doing?
We don't know.
Claire 247 says, We are ready to begin the process. We shall know shortly if Andis is returning to us or not. Please let the priests here and Kendori do their work.
But while the priests are doing their thing, didn't Andis have like an assistant or something back on Absalom Station? Should we try to reach out to them to see if, I don't know, let them know what's going on?
You can. It will take a number of days for transmissions to reach out from here back to the Pact.
Probably worth it to say something along the lines of, hey, so just so you know, your friend Andis is going through something, and by the time you get this message, we'll know one way or another. But
perhaps we should just wait to send Nezumi any kind of notice. We can find out what Andis's fate is first.
As you all are,
I agree.
As you're prepping, Clara looks over at you, Edros, and says, I don't know what magic hoodoo you and your new god friend Sarenrae have, but I think the Triune folk here may have need for all the help they can get in the prayer department. Do you have one to offer up?
Yeah, I can help.
To Knack, Raimi, and Alindra, Clara says, clear some space. I've heard this is going to be loud. The members of the founding 19 spread out around the table, and this is laid in the center, and there are a number of prayers that they intone. Smoke is wafted over the body and oil rubbed into the circuitry of their frame. Andio reaches forward with a scepter and says, that which is host to a soul, I beg of thee to return. That shell where once a soul resided, let it be filled. Your name is one of many, but your voice is unique. Andis, return and see the faces of your comrades. Hear their voices. Let them help you now. Andio points to you in turn and asks you to say something. Alindra?
Andis, please don't leave yet. I haven't even told you about my vision. We have so much to figure out together. We need your help. Please come back to us.
Knack?
Andis, buddy, just been through a lot, man. I'd be dead if it wasn't for you, and, well, you'd be dead if it wasn't for me. We're some kind of a family now, and that means something. Need you to come back. Join us again.
Edros?
The light of Sarenrae burns for all to follow, but we all make a choice. You can follow it and come back, or you can move on. The important part is, this choice is yours, my old friend.
Raimi?
Andis, since the first day we met, you and I have had a connection. From times of levity
combat and the trials and tribulations we've gone through as Starfinders, but there are very few people in this universe that I have ever felt a kinship with, and you're one of them. And while I want to say that this is your choice, selfishly, I need you. You are one of my best friends, and I cannot think about going through the rest of this mission or the rest of this life without you. So please, come back.
Jabert, Andis 147 inside the cave hears the distant echoes of voices as you're climbing forward, the torch casting light upon the darkness, the stones there. You hear this. Outside in the real world, Andio says, Triune, hear our call. As one of your components, one of parts that once hosted life, so too must it be given here today. In the names of the Precursor, the Created, and the Exalted Transcendent, we beseech thy mercies and blessings. There's a thunderclap that ripples across the inside of Kindori's brain. The electric lights and candles begin to burn more brightly. The room quakes silently as the light reaches blinding levels. A high-pitched, ear-piercing, godly tone deafens the androids and all around the body. Their voices repeating the same message, beseeching the three-part god, the same message over and over again, reaching a crescendo before you can't hear it anymore. Room grows pitch black before all the lights flicker on, the candles relight one by one, and before you, the body of Andis 147 opens its eyes and slowly sits up, and Andio says, Who are you? They open their eyes and say, to be continued.
Ah, come on! You're kidding me!
Whoa. Yeah. Not only will that be continued, not next week, but in some future episode, but maybe never. Maybe I'll just won't get around to it. Just forget about it.
we will unionize, Patrick, and you will feel our wrath.
Who this Andis is? Oh, I know, and I can't wait for everyone else to know. But that will not be revealed in this episode. No, thank you. Everybody.
No, thank you.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah. Certainly you can go.
Certainly not thank you.
Yeah.
More like pronk you, everyone. Good night.
If you think you know who shot Mr. Burns, mail in your response to which Andis is it at gmail.com. For real though, we'll get back to this in a while, but that is going to do it for this episode. It's going to do it for basically all of book 4. Ruin Clouds.
Alindra has one doppelganger, but Andis has a whole bunch of them.
I got a brain doppelgangers.
My favorite was Pickle Andis.
That's right. Yes.
I don't know if you put 2 and 2 together, but Andis 145 that lost a leg was definitely the pirate Andis. And they had a peg leg. How are you guys doing? You made it through that.
Harrowing adventure.
A little nerve-wracked.
Yeah, I'm emotionally exhausted now. So
welcome to the rest of this AP.
Oh no.
We're gonna find out more about what is happening in our adventure going forward next week. But this episode's not done because we have our interview with Jason Keeley in our crit bit. Which you do not want to miss. It's a lot of fun, and chills are running down my body. Are you all ready to wrap this one up? Wrap up 147 episode.
Episode 147.
It's season 1, episode 47. It makes sense.
I get it,
man.
I did not plan that. I swear to you, I just came up with that on the spot.
That's pretty
amazing.
The beautiful magic here that happens at Cosmic Crit.
Yeah, no, electricity. I can feel it. Thank you guys for playing with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll say good night and hello, everybody.
Good night.
Good night and hello,
everybody.
Hello. Hey, Jason.
Crit bit commencing in 3, 2, 1. Crit bit initiated.
Wow, what an episode. So many revelations. And now we're going to go back. We're going to talk about them and everything else that's happened in a very special Crit Bit. Welcome, everyone, to the little bit of a show after the show. I'm Patrick, your GM, and I'm joined by all the players on the show that you love and care about. I'm here with Drew, Rebecca, Tyler, and Jabert. Sadly, Miles is not with us, but everyone else is. Say hi, everybody.
Hi.
But no, this Crit Bit is special because we're joined by a very special guest in the form of Jason Keeley, Starfinder developer, friend of the show. Welcome back, Jason.
Hi there.
Welcome, welcome. And as is tradition, we like to have the authors of the AP on right after we wrap stuff up to both condemn them and praise them for the accomplishment of their AP volume.
Yeah, we always have them on right after we fight the big bad, and so there's always a little bit of resentment there.
So we're at our angriest when we talk to them.
I have some very strong words.
Oh gosh, is that the time? I have to go to the dentist.
It was still my favorite. It was in the Securitech building when Jabertia set off the trap and he took it so
why is that sitting there anyway?
And I said, it's like everything in these rooms is trying to kill you. This dungeon is trying to kill me.
No.
Ruined Clouds, AP Volume 4. We're out of Istamak. It's been a couple of interesting episodes of exploration, making new friends, discovering customs, new local customs. Very different from the previous 3 books. Well, not really in some ways. I feel like even though the Kish were completely unknown to the player characters, like all the races are kind of new to the players. So they treated it very similar to like Eoxians. It's like, wait, who are Eoxians?
I think I need to tease y'all about your pronunciation. About you've exchanged the last A for an E. In the book, it's Istamak.
Istamak.
But I whatever y'all want to do. I was just thought I'd bring that up.
Would someone from there be an Istamakian?
Yeah, I guess so.
Istamakite.
Istamakite.
Yeah, no,
you ruined my wonderful made-up words. Patrick, how dare you?
I guess we're going to have to go back and edit out all those words from all the episodes that we spent in Istamak.
I mean, I think what our listeners will find over the course of this podcast is I have a severe reading deficiency, and you all should double check all the spellings if we go back to book 2 with what's her name?
Ralkawi.
No,
I definitely transposed it in my notes as Rawaki.
And it's stuck.
Istamak.
Whatever.
That's what happens when you say the name of the island with a mandible. Just transposes the vowels.
So Volume 4 was sort of meant to be the part of the adventure path. This is the first Starfinder adventure path. Now we're going outside of the main campaign setting, essentially, to a brand new world. So it's really meant to be the first contact type situation, new and weird, and with the auspices of a sort of super post technology environment. It's the classic trope that Rob McCurry, who wrote up the outline and had all the ideas for what was going on, just wanted to explore. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to do that one, please. It's the first adventure path I've ever written. Not the first adventure I've written that's been published, but I published that adventure, the first one, so that doesn't really count.
But an accomplishment to be sure, because what did you have to work with? Was it just like, they go to the island and you have to make up the race and the place and everything?
The Kish was made up. It was a floating island on a gas giant was all created. They would have to find out that the Cult of the Devourer was there before you. And that was basically it. And I was like, well, let's think about what to do with all that and how to make it fun and weird. And
I really enjoyed this book a lot.
and
Thank you.
it felt like a really sort of involving world, and sort of one of the most fun things about that was sort of exploring all of those locations and sort of discovering like, oh, this was a hospital, this was an office building.
Yeah, so it's I'm sure different for an author of an AP as well as a GM to like, because you know all the secrets. Like, how will this play out if you didn't know what was going on? And that's part of the magic of, for me, tabletop RPGs is to, as GM, get to experience the story twice. Once prepping it and once through your player's eyes. They might.
That's a good point.
They might and always will, I should say, think of something you did not think of when you're, I'm sure, writing or going through as GM.
Definitely.
And that's one thing we're going to talk about a lot tonight is maybe some unintended amazing stuff that you injected into the world and didn't see exactly how the players were going to use it. And just because it's in the forethought of my mind, I want to go back a couple of episodes to, I think it was episode 43, where they fought the Ryther Swarm.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of it, Drew had the idea to lure it into the trap that was the shock grid underneath the computer system.
Super good idea. I had no idea. Did not plan that.
Yes. Yes. That's what I figured. I think after we finished recording, I was like, I'm going to ask Jason if he had any idea that someone would use it like that. And
so I have peak Starfinder. So I'm just going to retire after this. It's been fun, guys.
We'll raise your character sheet up to the rafters.
Yeah. Put in the bubble wrap, and that's one thing. I mean, I like playing with new players a good deal because they will throw out some very interesting ideas like that you might, maybe perspectives on the environment you wouldn't get with someone that is all about the numbers and trying to crack a monster stat block to figure out how to take it down. But that was pretty darn useful for a swarm, which I don't think you guys had fought a swarm in the AP up until that point. Very dangerous.
Oh, no. Yeah, they're still pretty dangerous, but we've made them a little bit so that you could use automatic fire and other things that make it a little easier to fight than in a Pathfinder swarm. But they're still, I mean, especially at the level that guy was like CR 8 or 9.
Yes,
dangerous.
But that's actually one thing that I want to say about this particular AP book, and I haven't felt so. What's the term? Like isolated?
Were you bored?
No. There is
sleepy.
There is a sense of isolation and unpreparedness that I don't think I have felt in a book since we went to the Acreon for the first time. We didn't know the language. We did not have like a shopkeeper that we could go and buy stuff that we needed, and just all of a sudden realizing, like in fighting the swarm. Okay, so a grenade would be really handy right now. So let me just reach into my cheek pouch and I have a level 1 shock grenade, and I only have one of them. This is a perfect opportunity to not do anything with this.
Time to destroy Adross's weapon.
Yeah, and it's that sort of thing that has made me rethink, and also just like not knowing the language. And Miles is actually, he's not on this conversation right now, but we have talked off air about how he was looking at what's the translation spell that
Tongues. Share language.
Tongues specifically, he had looked at but decided not to take before going into the level that we went to, and then realized, oh man, that would have been super handy.
Yeah.
I mean, something like that just sort of makes the adventure turn on a dime for different parties. But we have to sort of keep in mind all of those things. Who's going to have that? Who's not going to have that? And just sort of put in contingencies for those who might not.
Yeah, no, I'm playing a Pathfinder. We're doing Iron Fang Invasion with our good friend Thurston Hillman's book 4 right now, and there's a interesting part that's like, you're a level, I think 11 or 12 party of Pathfinder adventurers might just fly over this obstacle, in which case this happens. So you have to take into what if everyone had a jetpack on this part of the adventure. It changes things.
Which was actually just to bring it up, but the Broken Lands fight. I think probably one of my favorite things about something that Jason did in this book is that so many of our fights involved the terrain or the environment. We had to actually shift strategies because of what was actually physically in our way. With the Broken Lands fight, there was just no land. I mean, that fight, Adrosh just kind of stood on an island and went, "Go team," and really couldn't do much. With the elemental fight, it was large creatures, tight space, and with the Zavra fight, there was a balcony. So we actually kind of had this 2-story conflict where Zavra for the first few rounds was up top, kind of harassing us while his minions were down below. So there was a lot of that, which I think just makes fights much just really interesting and fun compared to just like in this corner the bad guys, in this corner the good guys, meet in the middle and punch.
What do you?
Oh, sorry, George. Go
ahead. On that note, sort of what other sorts of strategies do you use to try to make an encounter more dynamic like that?
Sure. Yeah. That's a good point. I mean, I like to have things be dynamic, but in certain cases, especially with what you're talking about, the Broken Lands fight, that one is kind of all up to Patrick because he took a monster from a different area and kind of threw it at you at a super appropriate time. And as I was listening to that, I was like, that is such a good idea. Why didn't I think of that?
Because you're too kind. I was like, oh, there's a chance for them to fall into the abyss.
4 days.
It's time to throw a huge creature at them to eat them up.
But the balcony stuff and the tight quarters and some other things, I did come up with that. And I like to come up with reasons like, oh, so that it's not just a slug out, like Tyler said. But I like to try to do something like that. You try to every once in a while have something happen in the middle of a fight or give to PC a different goal other than fighting, but also fighting is happening around them. You gotta pick this lock or hack this computer before something while someone is trying to punch you in the back of the head. So stuff like that to make things interesting. Especially with the hologram too is what I've meant to like be a kind of a mobile fight, kind of poking in and out of the different areas and just sort of walking through the wall and punching you and then disappearing and coming back and forth.
That one really should have. I was going to say, that one sort of turned into a little bit more of a sort of like, I mean, there was a sort of a punch here and there, and we would sort of look around and be like, "Are we in combat? I don't think we're in combat." And then we just keep walking.
I really should have sent the living hologram after Knack in the walls and just had him murdered completely. But I'm a very nice GM sometimes.
Yes, sometimes.
That would have been a scary fight.
Mm-hmm. The GM giveth and the GM taketh away.
Yeah. What else from this book do you guys want to talk to Jason specifically about to see if that was a happy accident or something he planned? I will say, I guess I remixed stuff as a GM for adventure, but I don't think I made up really anything. Most everything that has happened on Istamak is indeed, in the book somewhere.
Somewhere in the book, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the dreaming pool, though, is something that you added, right? I mean, the dreaming pool itself is something that exists, but that whole sequence was not necessarily part of the AP, right?
Right. I think I shared with you guys what the description of it. It's like, a paragraph, and it's just like a tantalizing little tidbit for GMs, and I've talked to other GMs that wanted to use it as well for a very similar thing, foreshadowing or giving some kind of character keystone to glom onto. And I think as soon as I read that was one of the little bits in the back chapter about the island. I was like, oh, well, that's gonna get integrated for sure for someone.
That was probably the most fun to write out of all of it, was those little descriptions of different places on Istamak that weren't in the adventure.
Yes.
You guys didn't go to the Palace of Screams. You didn't go to the Empty Court or the Giant's Pantry or the Field of Champions or something like that. I think I might have called it.
All these rad places that we're just finding out existed.
I feel so robbed.
Why don't you ever take us anywhere nice, Patrick?
Maze of Ghosts.
I definitely alluded to the Palace of Screams.
Oh yeah, that's right, you did.
Might have mentioned in passing the Field of Heroes, but it's one of those things that I feel like if the characters in our story weren't under such massive time constraints of trying to chase after these evildoers, then just a complete exploration of the island would be a great deal of fun. And maybe they don't get the exact location of the House of Renewal or any of the other locations, and they have to kind of do like a grid intersection and search block by block for these things. And they're and it's one of my favorite things as GMs are a lot of tools in Ruin Clouds for GMs to do that, and particularly a whole section of the book that has various random encounters or things that you can throw in as they're exploring. And I integrated a couple of those, right? So one, of course, was the Sharp Wing, which as soon as you see the art in Alien Archive or in this AP, I was like, yeah, no, that thing has come out of the sky at an opportune time. And then the rabid Eohais. In the beginning of the House of Renewal was actually supposed to be a couple of Kish soldiers, but the previous fight was already some Kish soldiers, so it was one of the first fights when you got to the island. So and that's one thing that it's great to have, like I said, as a little toolkit as a GM. You can kind of mix and match things if depending on the party's consistency. Maybe if they the party that you're playing with has a lot of those social skills and you want to have them be able to talk down more Kish warriors, then I would have thrown some more in at you guys.
This is maybe more of a comment more than anything, but I was going to say earlier that I felt like I had a really, really clear picture in my mind the entire time that I was on this island of what it looked like and how vast it was and like how varied it was. And I'm realizing now that you're mentioning all of these like other places we didn't even go to that you alluded to, and that probably subconsciously in my mind like made it feel even richer somehow, knowing that there was like this whole part of the island that maybe I hadn't seen before or whatever. But I really thought it was beautiful, like the idea of the constant sunset and the lighting and being over this gas giant. I just thought it was a really neat sounding place. So
yeah, it's definitely a full evocative setting. Now I don't remember. Forgive me. Which one of you was Jabert or Miles said that the area was just looked like Central Park?
I think we both said that at one point.
You both said it? Maybe because I 100% based this entire island off of Manhattan.
Oh, really?
In a lot of ways. Yeah. I basically was like, let me draw a grid of streets, essentially.
Right, yeah.
Should have a big park in it. I mean, Manhattan is an island. This is a floating island.
Oh, that's great.
There's basically a Madison Square Garden. The community center is essentially Peter Cooper Village, Stuyvesant Town kind of area. There's a South Street. There's a South Street Seaport kind of area. I can't remember what I called it, like the Azor Triangle or something like that. There's and so in going there, this is a sort of a director's cut peek behind the curtain. Originally, the Maze of Ghosts was basically based around like technological Madame Tussauds wax museum. So it was going to be a lot more whimsical and goofy, I guess. It was called Colonel something's Phantasmagory Optical Gorium or something like that. And it would have been like, here's a bunch of Kishali celebrities that you get to look at, and the main hologram is going to be this action movie star who was like just going to be like leaping with guns sideways at you, and it's like you're not supposed to be here. This is my city, But I wrote that up in the outline stage, and as I was writing, this is a little too goofy, maybe.
Yeah, that's what's known as Kish Kitsch.
Kish Kitsch, yes, 100%.
See, I get a Kish pun too. Thank you.
The puns in this book were
Everyone
strong.
gets one. Jason, are you trying to tell me that I could have busted out my Arnold Schwarzenegger impression for the living hologram? And
maybe I don't know.
You could have done that for the governor too, right?
The first.
Shut up, Jabert! Stop rubbing it in. That would have been too much fun. Yeah, no, that.
Yeah,
we gotta go back and re-record that episode.
You've got to get Zavra.
There was a whole
Get to the
mascots. Get to the Zavra. There was a mascot where so the Colonel, what's his name, would have been who the hollow skin made you look like, and he would have greeted you. Instead of that, he would have been saying the things that where you got that sort of spotty transmission, or the recording, spotty recording of the person saying "Welcome to the thing." That would have been him way more Zoe-esque, I suppose. But
no one would complain about that.
No one would have. But I basically wrote it, and then I was like, I don't know about this. I'm going to tone it down. It didn't make a whole lot of sense for this. Istamak is essentially a colony of a larger civilization, and why would they have a weird Madame Tussauds? They would just have a more practical history museum, essentially.
Yeah. Well, that's another element that we haven't touched too much on, is besides being first contact with like a kind of regressed civilization, it's also like a post-apocalyptic setting as well, which was really interesting, like layering it on top of one another, because we've just gotten into Starfinder, where it's far future, a little bit of Firefly mixed with Star Wars. And then in this book, we're going back in time almost for the adventures through these different houses.
Yeah, I really liked that we sort of went from the sort of the high sci-fi settings back to the sort of like low tech, the sort of like low tech environment, right? And sort of within the story, it was sort of a nice. Obviously not a breather, because we were going the whole time, and like we were under immense danger, imminent danger. But it was sort of kind of a quieter moment in the story to sort of reflect on the consequences of failing to stop a enormous ecological disaster. Right. So like it was really well timed as a book 4. Like I'm really motivated to go and stop the Cult of the Devourer from doing their thing.
Good, because they're jerks.
They are jerks. You're gonna get more motivation too, as in the next couple of books. Well, at least the next book.
I can imagine.
I'm glad you don't pull a sympathy card and all of a sudden make them some like, no, we're actually the good guys.
We're trying to devour evil.
Because I developed book 5 and 6, so I had my hand in both the next two. And at one point where maybe we're torturing animals, and I was like, I'm just gonna cut that back a little bit. Just they're mean, but we don't need to see that.
They just eat them live. No torture. It's a very clean.
They'll turn a Sheeran into a weird like mouth hand monster, but leave the dog alone.
Leave the little puppies alone. Yeah.
I actually have. I would like to say something about the setting that I also really appreciated, that I think we kind of danced around. And it's funny because I just started playing about 4 days ago Horizon Zero Dawn on the PlayStation, which is a game that is set in
pretty awesome.
A post-apocalyptic world where humanity has kind of risen back up on the ashes of a previous civilization, and how that previous civilization's super advanced technology impacted the aspect and the religion of the new world. And it's funny playing that game after going through this book and seeing things like the Maze of Ghosts and the Temple Found and the House of Renewal, and seeing how all of these, just what would have been to any other Pact Worlds race probably a relatively mundane, if not necessarily slightly more advanced version of what you have on the any of the Pact World systems, and to see that become this sort of temple, this religious historical artifact to these people. And I found that super interesting, in how that all came together.
On that same. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's a science fiction trope that none of us invented, but love to play on. I mean, you look at old episodes of Star Trek where they were where they worship the Constitution.
Yes, I love that episode.
Or stuff like that, or Fallout, any of the Fallouts where you come across an unexploded bomb and people build a city around it. Why? Because they don't know any better, right? One of the influences actually amongst this is an old video game called the Superhero League of Hoboken. That was a sort of sort of a goofy superheroes role-playing game, kind of also adventure game kind of thing. And it had a lot of that. It was set in a post-apocalyptic New York where you'd go and there you'd find out this religion is based around old airings of the Wheel of Fortune and dumb stuff like that. So I was like, and it took stuff like all those inspirations to really put together in this particular adventure.
Yeah, I was really curious about what some of those were. One of the things that always sort of is I find really interesting when I'm sort of reading through these is I find little knickknacks and like things that feel really familiar, and I'm always really curious to talk to the author and sort of like understand sort of like what headspace they were in. Like did you ever like read like a novel that made you like really think like, oh boy, we got to bring in some of this, or
subconsciously, I'm sure I'm always doing that. I have done other things. I've tried to emulate other authors in the past, writing my own stuff here and there. But for this particular one, I just sort of thought about Fallout. I thought about that stupid superhero game. My wife watches The 100, and that is. I kind of so it's on. It was kind of on in the background while I was writing this. So stuff like that. It's stuff where you realize that they're calling the city by the name something, and you realize half the sign just fell off, and that's where they got the name of the city from. So it's just like stuff like that I thought was really that I could show off my cleverness.
Wait,
right?
what was the name of the city?
Well, the temple
That's
found
in the show. Yeah.
And the 100. It's called like what's it called? Ton DC or something like that, and it's just Washington DC.
Okay.
But yeah, the temple found is basically Istamak is sort of a company city based around this company, the Foundry, which is a weapons manufacturer and a Lockheed Martin style deal, and basically just half the name found off, so it's just called Found. And granted, a lot of people on the internet have said like wouldn't work that way. It's an alien language. I'm like, but it's the translation of that alien language that people are telling you that works that way. So
they might have suffixes.
It works. Their language works exactly the same way. Each symbol is a different letter, right? I don't know.
I'm now so much more interested in the Giant's Pantry and the Field of Heroes and the House of Screams, like
Palace of Screams,
and all of these things and what they were.
We'll leave Mac behind, and everyone else can continue on.
I'll tell you that the Giant's Pantry is a Costco. The Field of Heroes is just a sports arena, and Palace of Screams is a haunted hotel, which may or may not be inspired by Ghostbusters.
I was very close to having something in the Palace of Screams, and maybe one of the players was drawn to there for like a creepy night.
Would have been great.
Miles would have loved that.
Miles would have loved that.
Yeah, Miles like
go the deed to the place if you can spend the night there.
Miles has already had ladies in coffins and buildings talk to him, so
right.
he'd be used to it at that point.
There's another. I have to before we get any further. So you guys didn't find out the origin of the Ryther Swarm and the secure tech offices. If you just gone, sort of in the back towards you guys are all totally right. This is a cubicle farm. And a lot of times I was writing this, I was like, ancient alien civilizations, they're just like us. Coming up with these rare days. But the behind if you gone the other way away from the offices, there was a break room back there. And essentially the Ryther Swarm is someone's leftover food that has been there for 1,000 years.
Oh, that's great.
Oh my Lord.
You could have gone in, and I don't know if it's just the moss and the mold was more in the back. I don't know if you can actually cover that, but I definitely wrote it into the adventure.
It's amazing.
And Ross is definitely going to be obsessed with finishing his food from now on. He doesn't want his ancient lunch to kill buildings and eat people in the future.
Yeah, is that a Futurama episode? I feel like
it might have been.
Gosh.
And makes fools of us all.
I know, right? Who knows?
Yeah, I gotta imagine anything Starfinder. You gotta be like, do a quick Futurama wiki search. It's like, wait, this was episode 37. Darn it!
I don't know. Or I just have to remember every episode of Futurama.
Or just crib every single episode of Futurama.
Yeah, who's gonna know?
Futurama the game.
It's an SRO. He says, "Lick my dull backside."
But I just to go back to just the idea of this being such a different place than we're in the first AP of the fourth book of the first AP of Starfinder, this brand new RPG game that I just have to say, this is another book that just shows the depth of storytelling and the different types of stories that you can tell in this sci-fi fantasy world. We have gotten, abandoned asteroids and corporate espionage and jungle adventures, and now post-apocalyptic inspired Fallout remnants of civilization adventures. And I love Starfinder. I just had to say that.
Luckily, that's it, and that's all the stories. So from here on out,
all the
story goes over
Back
and
it up.
over again.
Going back to Casherville next book.
How much of that versatility do you think is attributable to the ability to travel to new places? I mean, I know that, for example, in Reign of Winter back in Pathfinder, that was sort of like a big point of, when you get this special item, you get to go to new and amazing places.
Mm-hmm.
It opens a lot of doors for you. And so I'm curious sort of about your opinion about the degree to which travel sort of enables those choices, or whether or not, it's just sort of a convenient way to access them.
I mean, I guess it's a little bit of both. I mean, we can decide what kind of story we want to tell, and then find a place to set that story, and then just say, you go there. It's not a big deal. Or, in the process of telling a different story, it's like, oh, you can go anywhere you want. Let's just go, and then find a place that's similar to that. It's the place that will help you tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's very freeing, and it is. We can now, in the process of telling all kinds of things. We're done with the Against the Ion Throne, which is coming up. I've finished that. It's gone to the printer. And it's got some stuff in there that I'm like, yeah. But in its heart, it is a kind of a almost like a spy James Bond kind of Jason Bourne kind of set of adventures, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then plus a little bit of Star Wars, right, with it against an evil empire kind of thing.
You make some Starfinder, you're gonna get a little Star Wars.
You're gonna go Star Wars. You just can't help it.
Star Wars on my Starfinder.
You can't make an omelet without breaking a few Starfinder.
And then we're going to go on to, Signal of Screams, which I am deep into right now, and making it nice and creepy and terrifying. The first adventure. Oh my gosh. So, to go right from that in Space Horror, and then from there on we go to the sun, and that whole adventure takes place in and on the sun. And we don't need but yet there's still a lot of travel and a lot of going places and a lot of different things that we can do.
Mm-hmm. Sun's a big place, yeah.
Sun is a big place.
Sun's technically in the system the biggest place.
I have been really excited to go to the sun because of all of even in the CRB, reading through the sort of geographical locations, the sun area and the sort of network of little spaces around the sun just looks gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great place to get a tan. Really no better place if you're looking to work on it.
No choice to get a tan.
But there's all kinds of in Pathfinder too. You got planes, different planes of existence that you can like jump into. So while one adventure you could just be like, let's defend the town against the giants. The next one could be like, okay, well now you're in a realm of nether and dark energy, and there's all kinds of monsters that no one has ever seen before. It's like, wait, what happened? we were just town guards a few months ago.
I want to go back to Belskin.
I got to imagine that in Starfinder there's the opposite problem of like you can do anything, so like you can't like just take things out. I don't know, like anything can happen on any of these crazy worlds, even within if you don't leave the pack system. There's so much variety in the pack system itself.
Sort of as a go ahead, Tyler.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the opening introduction to the island, to Istamak, because I mean, I really liked the fake out, and thanks for Patrick for increasing the fake out, where, you know, when you kind of arrive with your ship, it's like, oh, look, a landing pad. You know, if they have landing pads for ships, they must be advanced, right? And so, you know, you land and you're immediately confronted with an upset race of creatures who you can't talk to, and that immediately presents a moral dilemma. And we briefly touched on it with the show, but I just wanted to ask you, I mean, just how, I guess when you were kind of designing that first initial introduction, you know, what were some of the challenges you wanted to put in front of the players? And, you know, what were you really looking for that kind of fake out of people landing, expecting to find, you know, some probably a more advanced civilization than it ultimately ends up being in its current state?
I guess I didn't consider a fake out, to be honest, because I was already knew what it was going to be, so I didn't think that anyone, you know, you can scan it from above, it's got weird power signatures or whatever, and it might not look as, and you know, some of the landing pads are all crumbled, so you might get a suspicion, but you know, who knows what's going to happen in Starfinder, right? You should land and get greeted by the angry Kish. I guess I wanted you. I knew going in that the Bane boss was going to have to be a Kish. Right. We had the art of it was already there, and we had a great time figuring out what their faces look like. We had a whole bunch of different faces to choose from at one point. But anyway, which one looks weird and alien? But so I wanted to eventually had to realize I had to set up this shouldn't be just fighting all the Kish on this island, because that would be boring. There should definitely be a peaceful contingent as well that you get to interact with and maybe figure out what's going on more or less. So, you know, throwing them at you right away. I guess I decided to do that and then realized, oh, then the PCs might think all these Kish are evil and fight them. Now I have to walk that back and figure out a way to present other Kish that are maybe friendly. And that's why I came up with the sort of broken off the Outcasts faction for the reason of what happened. You know, but I figured they would, being sort of regressed people and having just been beaten up by a bunch of you know, cultists, that they would attack you right away. They would consider you to be weird demons, right? You know, you're from another, from somewhere else.
Well,
you
who
must
knows?
die.
Maybe the Cult of the Devourer like left the day before, you know, it's like another ship. It's like, oh gosh, attack them quickly.
and we land on that platform, and half of us are trying to do the Star Trek mode, and then a couple of us are like, they think we're demons, and there's no convincing them otherwise. Let's just take care of them. And it broke the party a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, and I part of what I also loved about the fight is when, like, I think early on the fight, it's pretty easy to figure out, these guys, they're not going to hurt us. I mean, they're just between the archaic armor and the archaic weapons. At least when I was playing a soldier, it just became apparent that they don't really present a threat. They're not a significant enemy. They're not difficult. And, you know, just laying down some extreme justice would have been kind of, it felt bad. Like, I felt bad for the Kish before we even knew anything about them, because I was just kind of like, oh, you're trying really hard, but it's not cutting it.
Rebecca accidentally killed one.
Accidentally, whatever.
Yeah. Rebecca, I've been meaning to tell you about that. You should lie low for a while. You murdered that Kish.
That was something that sort of, you know, that I think a couple of us brought up reasonably early, was that there were sort of like, you know, before we met the Kish that weren't attacking us, I at least was a little concerned about sort of like the colonialist
literally walking off the boat and shooting your gun.
Walking off and being like, oh, look, natives, here they go. You know,
now they've got bows and arrows. They could possibly kill us if they rolled really well.
Don't worry. We'll make it all better by giving them some blankets. It's infected with Castrovellan flu, but
it was.
Here's some Akata puppies. Have fun.
The juxtaposition. It's just so perfect because, literally they had bow and arrows. Meanwhile, our Solarian grabs a mote of solar energy and forms a blade out of it. I mean, it's just
he came right up to me. I apologize, okay, Tyler.
He was coming right at me. He's coming right for us. I've got my rights.
Well, luckily, Rebecca stood her ground.
Yeah.
While we're talking about that, I don't know if that was your favorite part, but do you guys have a favorite part of this AP in particular to bring up? Favorite moments or places, people.
I thought the
building
escape from the
collapse.
house was really exciting.
Yes.
And very confusing and unnerving, but very exciting.
As it should be. Yes.
Yeah.
You guys kept like moving your characters on our map on Roll20 to like locations, and like as soon as you did, I like squiggled out. It's like, nope, that's destroyed.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun for me. Like you turn the corner and it's impassable.
Mm-hmm. I agree,
Yeah,
100% my favorite.
Yeah, I loved that part as well. Just for a similar reason. It's sort of like it was maybe the same reason that I loved the chase scene on Castrovel, where it was just it made it a very sort of cinematic, sort of a high pace or fast action sort of roll this, you fail. Roll this, you made it. Go 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 go. There was very little like wait and stop and let's strategize for 10 minutes. It was just very high energy.
That entire episode may be the best episode that we as a crew have ever done. It
was fun for sure.
It was fun. It was funny. There were a number of jokes that got called back, even from the intro all the way to the end. Adros's lower back hurting because that's also the episode where we couldn't open doors. Let's remember that.
Yeah, the CR10 doors and the.
Yeah, what was the CR of those doors, Jason?
I don't know.
Thousands of XP every door you opened.
Yes.
We should have opened the other one. Oh man.
You guys would be level 10 by now.
All right.
You'd open up all them doors. If you enjoyed the collapsing building, there's I think there's a part in the 6th book you guys are. Really
Oh boy,
enjoy.
I bet there will be.
Spoilers.
That's all I'm saying. I'm saying it's an exciting part.
I know about this from chatting with the developers, but something that could have been here on Istamak was is now in book 6, which I'm very excited about. But there's a lot of great bits in this book. I really can't pick my favorite. I enjoyed your guys' reactions to a lot of things on the island. The House of Renewal fight against the Rebuilt was a lot of fun because whenever I first show you the artwork for monsters and your reaction is, oh, what is that? It's always pleasant because I've been looking at these monsters for like months and they're just like, oh yeah, there's a horribly disformed Kish monster. So I guess some of the reaction helps me get excited. It's like, yeah, these can kill you, can't they?
Yeah, kudos to the artists for Paizo, by the way. I mean,
Yeah,
I
we've got a lot
think
of
we
good-
talk about the writers a lot, but the artists are amazing too.
Yeah, shout out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's sometimes hard to find, but I found at least the artist of one of the Rebuilt on Twitter and was like, that's some of my favorite art in the book.
I would say one of my favorite parts was that disruption rifle. Thank you, Jason.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, so that's that is one that's actually right in book 5 in some of the back matter, but is part of the tech. The in book 4 there is a lot of really cool both ancient and like modern Kish devices and magical items. I think at this point you guys have seen almost all of them. I just kept dropping them in loopholes because they're so much fun. Yeah.
Did you give them the corpse lantern?
That one's a no, but I think it might come up in the future. But the
what?
The corpse lantern.
The corpse lantern.
The corpse lantern. Drew, the corpse lantern.
I want one of those.
Well, if you die in combat, maybe you'll get one.
We'll turn you into one. But yeah, that was a fun one as well. Looking through the back matter in this book, which you guys, after we're done with the campaign, definitely take a look at it because that's a lot of tools and things. Like I said, for GMs. But as you move forward, there's some fun weapons, armor, magical items, technological items, all kinds of great stuff in all the APs.
Oh yes, that's what that's what we've been trying to do, is to have lots of stuff for players so that we sell more stuff. But it does become difficult for someone who wants to buy this book but doesn't want to spoil themselves on the adventure. They've really got to be careful about what they look at.
Yeah. You got to use like a periscope with like the glasses that you use to look at the eclipse.
Yes, just from far away.
Speaking of technological items and weapons and things like that, maybe we should talk a little bit about what has just come out or is just about to come out, the Armory, the next rule book. How excited are you to see what players make of the Armory and what kind of characters they start making up?
Yeah, I'm excited because there's just loads more guns in it that I can put in adventures and give to bad guys and have them shoot you with them. But there's just tons of oh my god, so much stuff. I can't even. My mind is reeling thinking about it.
I tried to parse through all the streams and the chats where little bits and bobs of the art was let out, and yeah, there's a lot in the book. It feels
so much book, so much.
Yeah.
So say you're an Ahsoki envoy. You have you have small arms as your primary weapon, and you're doing like 2d4 max damage. Hypothetically. Is there maybe a solution for our small furry friends to do some max damage?
Your small arms are always going to do less damage than anything else, than any other gun, because they're not meant to be, but they function with the operative trick attack feature, so we can't boost the damage of the small arm by too much. But there are lots of fun new small arms in there. You can get that disintegrator pistol you got. You can get some more higher level versions of it that end up doing. I don't remember. I know the first one does like 1d20. I think it goes up to 2d20 and then 4d20 like that.
4d20, good lord.
It's crazy. They're crazy. They're really variable. But then any kind of cryo, laser, flame, etc., plasma. Anything you can think of there, we've got more of them in every category.
And crystals? Solarian crystals?
More Solarian weapon crystals, indeed.
Yeah, I heard there's a couple of pretty cool Solarian options as well in the book. Not just items, right?
Yeah, I think there are new class features, but like new choices for every class.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Nice.
A couple of us here on the podcast play Destiny, and that's what's coming down the pipeline in the next expansion. It's like just a couple more options for your characters, and we're salivating at the edges of our mouths for it. And yeah, I imagine for players, they just got to be stoked for more options.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, my book was the Pact Worlds book because I was very excited as the storyteller to get more information and dig into these worlds and also get some more player options as well. But that one so well received. A couple of Any Award nominations. Very excited. Those coming in a few weeks. We'll definitely be reporting on them. But it seems like Armory is going to be the exact same. People very excited about everything they're going to get to parse through very shortly.
Yeah, I love all the little tiny items and tools that you can purchase. Like from Pack Worlds, I bought the mag boots, which then came into play during the Aeon Guard fight.
Right, you ran out. We were actually the ship.
Yeah, and then I something that hasn't come up yet, but I also bought oxygen candles and other just like little kind of utility type things like that, and they're so fun to have as options that are just like 100 credits or maybe 300 credits at most, and that you can just kind of pack up and throw in that null chamber for maybe a unique situation. So I'm really excited that we're going to get more of that, and also more of the stuff that everybody likes to swing around.
I keep debating a sword cane for Knack. That came out of is that Pact Worlds or Alien Archive? I can't remember.
That's Pact Worlds.
Pact Worlds.
There's a a combination of things you can get in the pack worlds that was totally unintentional to turn yourself into a stage magician. Like there's a Victorian stage magician specifically. There's the sword cane, the minor stage magic feats, and then like there's a cape.
Yep.
Don't give them season 2 ideas.
Well, honestly,
I know what my new character's gonna be.
Honestly, we're talking about season 2 characters, and there is a feat in the Pact Worlds book that I am already pretty certain I'm going to get for my season 2 character. But
you dog-eared that page, Drew?
Oh, I did. I bookmarked that on the PDF. But the stage magic feats are pretty amazing. And that cape is really cool, but I couldn't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, eventually. But in Armory, you can look forward to getting yourself a musical instrument or a strategy game to play on the ship in between on long drift travels.
Maybe
that's great.
Maybe a Galarian finder.
Oh no!
It's all gonna come.
I'm done, everybody. Goodbye.
A Galarian finder rulebook. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
There's a thing that I've always wanted to. I want to do it's completely joke, and I doubt I'll ever get to do it. But just to have a amusement park called Galarian World in Starfinder, where it's just wrong. It's like slightly wrong, and big, and essentially, and like just big mascot versions of all the actual Pathfinder iconics are there. And they're just sort of like,
have you been reading my notebook? Did you just steal my idea for the next Halloween episode?
Oh no! Did I?
Well, if he didn't, we are, because you didn't say TM after it, Jason.
Right.
Oh, TM.
We're going for it. We'll see who can write faster.
I don't have anywhere to put it, so I don't have any reason to write it yet.
Oh, jeez. We should probably wrap up here. Oh, that's the dog alarm.
That's the dog.
We should probably wrap up here before we go too long.
So I have one final question that I would like to ask. This not only is about Jason, it's about the Wither Swarm, but also just about Starfinder in general. And that's why is every fortitude save about getting me pregnant? What is the obsession on the show? What is the obsession on the show with getting a Dross pregnant via fortitude saves? It's been driving me crazy for 4 books.
Can I hazard a guess? Is that this is sort of like the first round of monsters, and every single person was like, "Oh, I'm making a face hugger."
It's a little bit, lad. Yeah, it's just unfortunate coincidence.
Just coincidence.
And also really fun.
These monsters you fight.
I love it. I love it because it makes it seem like you guys all sat down and just went, we are going to make every bad creature burst out of every PC that plays this game. I love it. It's fun.
It's something that I think happened in Pathfinder a bunch too. That every time if you die because of this, you turn into one of them, and it's not as pregnancy as the Akatas and the Wither Swarms and everything else has been. But ghouls. If you die from ghoul fever, you rise as a ghoul. Oops. You gotta make more of them somehow.
Yeah, exactly. How do you get? Explain a ship full of ghouls. Like, you start with one ghoul, and then it murders everyone on board, and
Mama Ghoul and Daddy Ghoul.
Yeah, I was about to say the ghoul stork comes along, and delivers the.
Oh boy,
ghoul baby. Let's wrap it up there. I want to thank everyone for sticking around after the game itself, for talking with us, players, listening, our listeners out there. And Jason, thanks for stopping by after writing up a fresh new set of books for Paizo. Imagine that's what you do all day.
Yeah, every day is a whole new book. Every day is a whole batch of books, right? I get two or three books a day at least.
You've got a lever, you just plunk it down, it's like, print, go to the printer.
Don't tell the project manager that we work that fast.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. That's going to do it for us. We will have more discussions in the future as we dive into the rest of Dead Sons. But until then, thanks everyone once again for listening, and we'll see you in book 5. Good night.